Panel, it's Donald Trump, baby.
Yep.
It's all about Donald Trump, right? The old pivot. We're not going to talk about what's going on in Somalia and not going to talk about what's going on in Minnesota with this massive fraud scandal. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. With my remaining seconds, can we play the video I have, Mr. Chairman?
Folks, you are not going to believe what just went down in a congressional hearing. A GOP veteran just pulled out a video that absolutely demolished the Democrat narrative on the biggest welfare scam in American history. And the timing? Impeccable. Let's roll at the tape.
After weeks of viral videos from a young man YouTuber who was literally creeping around daycares by himself, making claims about fraud that were not there, and then the vice president and the FBI director were retweeting these videos without even verifying if they were true. So we're not accusing people of being xenophobic and racist. They are being xenophobic and racist, including the President of the United States. And I want to say, for one, that I stand with the Somali and the immigrant community standing here today.
Bitch.
According to Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson, there is an estimated $9 billion or more in fraud. Many obviously believe that this is just the tip of the iceberg. I want to thank and acknowledge the independent reporters Nick Shirley and Dave Hawk who broke this story wide open. Today I'm introducing a bill to award Nick Shirley with the Congressional Medal for his explosive work in exposing astronomical fraud in Minnesota. And the reason I'm doing this is because the American people are sick and tired of this, and they're sick and tired of mainstream media not covering any of it. The biggest question that most Americans, however, have is this: is this incompetence at the executive level with the governor and attorney general? Are they involved and complicit? I'm going to start with you, Ms. Robbins.
Thank you, sir. My understanding is that they were certainly aware of the fraud and they did nothing to stop it. And there were plenty of opportunities. And their commissioners and their agencies also undermined efforts to tighten internal controls.
Mr. Hudson, are you just hearing from Republicans on this, or are Democrat constituents like, oh my God, I'm struggling to put my kids in school, I'm struggling to make ends meet, and my tax dollars are being robbed by people, and then they're sending it all over the place, and this is complete fraud? What is going on, and why hasn't anything been done about it?
I'll give you a personal example. So my family, my in-laws in particular, are politically diverse. A lot of them vote for Democrats, and they're fairly apolitical. They're not like me, all plugged in. And so I kind of use them as a bellwether for what the people are thinking. Across the board, everybody is upset about this fraud.
And I'm guessing when you guys bring this up, whether it's to the Waltz administration, whether it's to the AG, the number one thing that comes back at you is you're a racist, you're a white supremacist, or you're an Islamophobe. As we've seen Governor Waltz now trying to answer for these questions, he's doing it at the national level. You guys hear the same thing at the state level as well?
Yes, absolutely. They always pivot to the divisive. As I stated in my opening statement, it's diversion, right? We're going to talk about personalities, we're going to talk about partisan politics, we're going to find some way to get people yelling at each other rather than looking at the problem.
horta aad iyo aadaan ugu faraxsanahay in maanta safaari aan soo gaarnay sida dadka badan ay u ogyihiin ciyaalkeena yaryar ilaa iyo number la eg 20 milyan oo ciyaal iskuuley ah waxay cuntadooda ka helaan iskoolka kaliya. Marka waxaan fursad u helnay in aan sharci soo gudbino oo la dhahayo Meals Act oo u fududeynayo in waqtigaanayta pandemic aan ku jirno oo dhalinyarada iskoolkii aynan joogin oo guryahooda ay joogaan aynan gaajoonin oo familkoodii weli ay fursad u helaan in cunto ay helaan oo meelo qaarkood laga qaybinayo ay cuntada ka soo qaadan karaan. Marka aadaan ugu mahadcelinayaa Safari in ay tahay meelaha city oo diyaarinayo cunto maalin kasto dhalinyarada ciyaalkii iyo familkoodina ku taakuleynaayo cuntada city. Maalintii kaliya Safari waxay cunto siisaa 2300 oo ciyaal ah iyo familkooda. Taas waa mid muhiim ah sida aad u ogtihiin dhalinyaro badan gaajo ku nool wadankaanayti ama familkooda fursad u helin in quraac qada iyo casho ay siiso. Marka in qadadaasaytii ay meel ka helaan aad ay u muhiimsan tahay. Bishaan Ramadaanka oo familiyaalkeena badan iyagoo aan shaqo haysanin, iyagoo aan taakulayn kale helaynin, in aynan ka walwalin ciyaalkooda yaryar sidii ay qada ku siin lahaayeen waa muhiim. marka waxaan u mahadcelinayaa safari oo kaleete iyo dadka badan oo maalin ilaahay keeno fursad u qaatay in ay u volunteer gareeyaan oo ay kaakuleeyaan familiyaalka.
Are you guys aware? You guys are elected officials in Minnesota, right? Are you guys aware of the reporting that some of the stolen money is getting funneled back to the Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab in Somalia? Mr. Robbins.
Yes, sir. And we have evidence of it going back as far as 2012, where a man was convicted of sending $21,000 to Al-Shabaab. In 2011, 2 Minnesota women were convicted of sending money to different groups. Someone else, we have multiple references of how the Al-Shabaab takes a cut when the money gets to Somalia through the Hawala network. So I think there's ample evidence on this and federal convictions.
And the Democrats? They're sticking to the script. This is just causing fear in the community. You're being xenophobic. You're being racist. Enter Representative Eli Crane, combat veteran, former Navy SEAL, and he is done with the gaslighting. He's questioning 2 witnesses, Miss Robbins and Mr. Hudson, both plugged into what's actually happening in Minnesota. And he asks them point blank, when you bring this up to the Walz administration or the Attorney General, what comes back at you? Do they call you racist, white supremacist, Islamophobe? Miss Robbins doesn't hesitate. Yes, absolutely. They always pivot to the divisive. It's diversion. They find some way to get people yelling at each other rather than looking at the problem. Mr. Hudson adds, my own in-laws, who vote Democrat, who are apolitical, even they are upset about this fraud. But the people in charge, they just call you names and move on. And then, Crane plays the video. The room goes quiet for a second, and up on the screen pops Ilhan Omar, standing right there with the Somali community, posing for a photo at the Safari restaurant, smiling, shaking hands, celebrating. The same Safari restaurant that is the single largest vendor in this entire fraud operation. Let me remind you what Safari did. They and their shell companies received in fraudulent reimbursements. They claimed to be feeding thousands of kids a day, sometimes 5,000 children, but bought almost no food. Instead, they laundered the money through shell companies, bought a $2.7 million headquarters, purchased multiple homes in Minnesota and property overseas, and picked up luxury vehicles including a Mercedes-Benz and a Chevy Silverado. And there's Ilhan Omar, celebrating them, defending them, calling investigations into this fraud xenophobic and racist. Crane doesn't stop there. He looks at the witnesses and asks the question the media refuses to touch. Are you guys aware of the reporting that some of this stolen money is getting funneled back to the Islamic terror group Al-Shabaab in Somalia? Miss Robbins answers, yes, sir, and we have evidence going back to 2012. A man was convicted of sending $21,000 to Al-Shabaab. In 2011, 2 Minnesota women were convicted of sending money to different groups. We have multiple references of how Al-Shabaab takes a cut when the money gets to Somalia through the Hawala network. Federal convictions, terror financing, billions stolen. And the Democrat response? You're causing fear. Crane wraps it up perfectly. He says, so despite $9 to $18 billion stolen, despite money tracked to Al-Shabaab, despite federal convictions, according to Ilhan Omar, this is still just fermenting fear. It's causing people to be uncomfortable. And then he drops the hammer. I say good. If you're participating in this massive fraud, you deserve to be a little bit uncomfortable. The room, silent. The witnesses, nodding. The Democrat narrative, in shambles. Because here's the reality. While Ilhan Omar was posing for photos at Safari, families in Minnesota were struggling. While she was calling investigators racist, terrorists were getting funded. And while she was trying to divert attention with name-calling, Republicans had to strip another she tried to give to Somali organizations out of a spending bill, organizations operating in the exact same circles as this fraud. Folks, this is what accountability looks like. This is what happens when you stop letting them call you racist and start asking real questions. Republicans want to stop the waste, fraud, and abuse. Democrats want to cover it up and send more cash. And Eli Crane just exposed the whole thing on national television with nothing but a video and the truth. If you are sick of your tax dollars funding luxury cars and terror groups instead of feeding kids, hit that like button. Share this video everywhere. And subscribe right now so you don't miss the next time we catch them red-handed. Say hi to your mom for me. We'll see you in the next one.